today's interview, we're going to be talking about making a great CV as a medic. Okay, so Shedrack, for those probably meeting you for the first time, would you like to introduce yourself?
Hi everyone, my name is Dr. Shedrack
Mhm.
Osuji, Doctor. I'm currently a house of design based in Abuja, Teaching Hospital, Babalada, Abuja,
Mhm.
Nigeria. In PN Karazin National University,
Mhm.
Ukraine. I just want to enjoy my life.
Man, I don't think it's just you. I think it's everybody who just wants to enjoy their life. Nobody likes to suffer, to be honest. So everybody likes the soft life. I think so. Everybody wants to live the soft life. So maybe writing a good CV or having a good resume could slightly be the key to having a soft life. Yeah, maybe so. Let's start with when do you think that a medic should start thinking about setting up their CV, whether on paper or putting things together to get you to where you want to go? So when should we start thinking about a CV, in your opinion?
So, really, in an ideal situation, as soon as you finish your high school or secondary school in Nigeria, you should have a CV. The ideal situation. But of course, a lot of us, we never really know these things until we get to like fifth year or sixth year and we want to apply to postgraduate stuff and now say that we need to see. But originally, the most ideal thing is starting as early as you can, which is most likely after.
Yeah, to be honest, I never personally I had a CV at from fifth year in medical school. So it's very important, like you said, that immediately you leave high school, you start working on a CV. Is it quite common or uncommon that you meet people in their fifth, sixth year, or even after medical school and they don't have a CV?
Very common,
Mm-hmm.
actually. But then it's not the right thing to do because at the end of it, you would come out making a very what's it called, a very suboptimal CV
Mm-hmm.
because really how CVs are supposed to be made is that every time you make a new achievement or every time you add a new skill or every time you do something new, you should add it to the CV. But then most times people teach the whole thing maybe in their final year in medical school or even after they graduate and they discover that okay, for house job you might need to have the CV, and then they begin to try to compile what they've done over the years. Most times you forget these things actually, and then it won't be like, for example, if I volunteer in some kind of organization yesterday, if I come to write my CV, it's going to be very fresh in my mind, and I'm going to be able to, for example, sell it properly. But then if I come back 4 years later, the experience is no longer as hyped as it was in my mind. So I will now just write that I volunteered as a social media publicity manager, and that's all, and you stop there. But then, if you yesterday, you know what you did really, you know how you had fun doing it. So it's very easy to write and then say, okay, this was what happened, and then this was how it made me feel. All these kind of things really count.
And I think that
So I think that again for medical students, the best time to write your CV is as you go. So from the first, or like motivational speakers will say, the best time to do anything is now.
Do anything you want to do is now. Get them in. I think I make a very bad one.
So if you're in first year, is now. If you're in second year, now. Third year, now. Short. Just as you're watching this thing, just at the side of your computer, begin to type.
CV. Good. Okay. And I think one thing, just to buttress the point that you just made, sometimes you need supporting documents to the things that you have done. And if you're intentional about your CV, like let's say in this season I've volunteered maybe and I've helped out somewhere and I'm including in my CV, maybe I would need something like maybe a letter of recommendation. So when I add it to my CV, because I'm proactive in this time, I could just say, oh, hi, sir, hi, ma, or boss. Like, thanks for the privilege to be here. What about if I can get like a letter of recommendation or a certificate? Because many times, another question I'll ask is that when people tell me that when they have a need for a CV, one of the popular questions is that they say, I don't know what I have done. Like, I can't write a CV because I don't have anything to write. I've had that happen like recently, a couple of weeks. Like you're in third year medical school, fourth year medical school, and you say you don't have anything to write in your or on your CV. So, I don't know what question to ask out of this. How dangerous is that, for example? And how can a person know that you have something to write? So, someone is saying, "Yes, I want to write a CV. I'm in med school. We're now in med school," and they're saying, "But I don't know what I should write. I've not done anything before. I just have been living my life. What would you have to say to them?"
Well, the truth is, like you said, CV takes intentionality, actually. So, of course, there are a lot of people who have lived their life and not been intentional about it. Most times, when I tell people, if they come to me and say they don't have anything to write, and I'm like, okay, let's write this CV in the next 6 months. But in this next 6 months, let's try to be intentional with what we are doing. So, for example, I try to ask them, what part of medicine or what interests you in life? What would you want to do? Why do you think you even need this in the first place? So because that would make CV different depending on what you on why you want that CV. So I like to ask people, why do you want to CV in the first place? Okay, and then if they say, oh, I've not done anything in the past since I started medical school, I've not done anything. I like to think, okay, did you make any class presentations? You could put that in as part of your display. Okay, did you go on any volunteer thing, even if it's not like a group, even if it's not like only you, did you volunteer with people or something? You can put it soon. So I also try to tell people not to lie on their CV because
what's the danger?
because one day they will catch them.
What are the dangers of lying on your CV? Like, putting things that, it might exactly. There's a way, like, okay, let me ask this question. Let's finish that thought first. We're talking about, so you gave the solution that you can start writing the CV from now on, like, start making active steps towards what your goal is and what you want to do. Find something. Nobody has it all perfect. I always tell people, no, everybody in this life is winging it. Forget it. Some are just winging it better than the others. But there's nobody that can beat their chest and say, I know what I want to do, everything I want to do tomorrow. It's all just, life is just still based on probability. This is what I think we're all just living. This is what I would like to do tomorrow. It's good to have that so that you have some kind of compass. That's called a goal. But at the end of the day, factors come in and we adjust here and there. So trying to say that I want to know like exactly before I do something, like, no, it may not work that way. So the question now, moving on to that, what's the difference between putting my best foot forward on my CV, like enhancing my skills, marketing them to be attractive? What's the difference between doing that and lying on the CV? And what's the danger of lying, when writing the CV?
Okay, so I'll start with putting your best foot forward, actually. So truth is that you don't want to sell yourself short on your CV because your CV will go to places where you will not even go. So you don't want to sell yourself short on your CV at all. So even if it's something small you did, you could sort of speak big grammar, a lot of fluency. But then let's make it very funky, actually. So for example, these LinkedIn people.
Wow, yes.
And how they
yeah.
And how they so that's how your CV should be, actually. So for example, if you served food as you volunteered serving food in old people's home, for example, you can write that in my quest to end world hunger,
okay,
I volunteered in serving some nourishment or some nutrients to the old people's home, and then the results gotten was something like all this kind of way. I don't know how to do it, but then, for example, just make sure that it sounds like genge.
Okay.
It sounds yes. So for example, say, oh, there's like I said that in my quest to end world hunger, I started to take my first step, starting with providing nourishment or essential nutrients to this home, and then the result was that these people got the nutrients and micronutrients they need for that particular point in time.
Well, the best thing is like
Anybody reading that, won't think that you said
wow. But either way, you better know your micronutrients, because if somebody reads that CV and start asking you like, so what kind of nutrients? Because that could just be somebody could just pick on that point and begin to ask questions. So, anyways, I think it's life. I think it's generally called putting things well, orderly. But what is a lie on a CV, for example?
Now, a lie is that, okay, you didn't do this thing or you don't have this particular skill. And then you now said, I'm going to get you actually. So, for example, you know you're not a team player. Because this is a very common thing, right? I'm a team player. You know you're not a team player because every time in your work, you're fighting and you're slapping.
You can work under pressure. And you know you hate pressure, right?
Exactly. And then you say you're a team player, and these people really need a team player. So they pick you. And then you go, and the next day you are fighting the manager because the manager told you that you need to take one for the team. So the truth is that most people who lie on their CV, I like to tell them that even if, sorry, but then it's about advice, but I like to tell them that even if you've lied on your CV that, okay, for example, I'm very competent with Excel and all those things. Even if you've lied, begin to start learning it.
Don't lie, just go and learn
Not
it. Don't lie. Yeah.
So don't lie, but then if at all you've lied, that's what I'm saying.
Better go learn the skills.
Better start learning the skills, because it puts you in trouble, and that could even, because in developed countries they see it as fraud, and that could really damage your reputation and even cost you the job you suffered lying for.
Yeah. Another thing I think that people do lie about in a CV is language. Just because you're in Ukraine, for example, and you know Privyet, and then you go and put master in Russian language, or I don't know, you go and select a very high proficiency, and probably they took you by the side. Probably, maybe you want to work in a hospital, and one day they were like, "Oh, we have someone that really said that they could speak Russian," and now here's a Russian patient in the hospital, and then all you could say is "kag dila." However, sure, you can't even probably click a patient using the language. So I think that sometimes people think some things are irrelevant when you put it out there. But let's talk about the positive side. Those things you think might be irrelevant may become an addition for you if you really do have that skill. It could just be the thin line between one level of salary to another, or position where you find yourself. Okay, great.
Thank you for viewing, and we're gonna continue this on the part 2 of this amazing series with Dr. Shedrack on how to write a great CV. Next time we'll be looking at med school and post med school as well, and Dr. Shedrack will be giving us all the information that we need to make an excellent CV. Have a wonderful day. See you in the part 2. Thank you for watching, and bye bye.